had the chance to ask Bomani and Pablo both about, what just the impact was of them being minorities and doing the show. And one thing Bomani, you'll hear him at the start of this answer, is that he hadn't even really thought about it in that way. And I kind of get why while you're doing something, you don't see the impact sometimes of being, a minority in what you're doing. But this is what they had to say about the impact of being minorities and hosting High Noon.
I don't know if I've really thought of it so much in that particular context. I suppose there's certainly like representation issues, and this is a show that looks a little different than most shows that you were going to see on television. But the biggest reason why we got this show, at least I like to think, is that we're pretty good at what we're doing. And so that for me has always just been the primary thing, is that for a long grind of trying to figure out how to do this, to be in a position to do this at all. There are but so many slots for anybody to do this. Regardless of just for people with 2 feet, there ain't too many people with 2 feet that got something like this.
I will say for me, it's all kind of novel. This is my first 5-day-a-week co-hosting job, and I get told a lot, and I feel it a lot, that it means something for me to be an Asian dude, to be an Asian anything, because that just doesn't really exist in many of those 5-day-a-week slots. So I have been enjoying what that is, because that's not something that I have felt as acutely until now, when you realize, oh shit, yeah, that's kind of different.
Yeah, and I could totally relate to that, what they were saying there, especially even what Pablo had to say at the end there, where it's like you kind of have this moment where you don't realize it or relate to it. And me doing what I do and reporting for AccuWeather, I am the only black field reporter. I'm the only minority now, that is. I'm the only minority field reporter. So sometimes you're not aware of it, but when people see you, somebody came up to me the other day. It was the first time somebody recognized me from AccuWeather, and it was a brother while I was out in the story. And, he was just like, man, keep doing what you're doing. I like seeing you out there. You don't see many of us out there. We don't really do the hurricanes like that. That is true. I do it in my way of safety.
And my man, I will say, I give you props. Cause I'm like, man, it's brutal out there where he is right now. Rain going sideways. I was like, nope.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you sometimes, you don't have these perspectives. And I think, Bryan, you'll see this a lot too as you get older. And I've heard it from people like Marley, other people who of Latino descent working in the media, is that people come up to them and tell them this. I remember working in News 12 and people come up to me, or even the best stuff that's happened to me where people have recognized me and told me the impact of being a black man doing what I do has been when people recognize me from stuff from Backpack. That's been kind of the best stuff, where people come and told me, from young kids, and that's cool and humbling. So, we all have an impact in what we're doing. We have to remember there are people younger than us watching us doing it in the way we're doing it now that are going to try to progress and do it better. So I always think that's important. Have you guys had that experience with people telling you about the impact of you as a minority and what it is you're doing in the space that you're doing?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the early things I did, Malcolm Jenkins, when he's on the Eagles, he's from New Jersey, and he went to high school in South Brunswick, I want to say, one of the Brunswicks. And I was there for a little give back that he did, and I was talking to him and his mom, and his mom was just like, it's really good to see you out here doing this, coming out. We really appreciate you. There are not a lot of people that look like us that are in media, that want to cover stories like this. I've done local radio, and you'll have people at the end of the sign off, but when they're done with their call, say, I really appreciate having brothers on here talk about this stuff. It's a different perspective, right? It's a perspective that an other audience member can relate to, right? That's the thing. It's like, you look at the NFL, for instance, right? When they have all of their sort of situations and their issues, it seems as though they only cater to and care about one specific demographic of their fan base. And from a business standpoint, it's understandable, right? The majority of your audience in a stance tend to be white. So I get that. But the percentage of people in there who probably think that way might be small. You are alienating a whole other part of your fan base because, you have a problem with some players, protesting against the sanctioned killing of unarmed citizens.
Actually,
right?
The interesting thing there from the business standpoint of NFL is they are actually assuming the way they think most of the white people are going to think. Right. And we don't necessarily know that.
Exactly.
And I actually don't think it's as broad as they might think.
And that's
don't get me wrong, those people exist.
Oh, they're there, of course.
Yeah.
But that's something that Bomani has said all the time, right? It's like he said it on his podcast and on various shows. The NFL owners think you're more racist than I think you actually are, right? Yes, there are definitely that element of
the racists are there.
They are there.
Totally
but by and large, a lot of I even eventually the majority of white fans can probably be cool with people and not think about it. Like, all right, we're good.
Right.
Let's keep it moving. We're gonna watch some football.
The better question you should ask around that, I'll let you go, Bryan. The better question people might want to ask about that is how much of the majority of white fans actually care about the issues that the dudes are actually protesting against.
Yeah.
That's the better question. That's where I'm not necessarily sure that as many care as they do. I think a lot of them just are like, oh, that doesn't affect me.
Right.
So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's the majority of people. Remember, a lot of those people want to watch sports for an escape, so they could care less about any of these issues and things of that nature.
Nah, they couldn't. And they've been escaping from some of the issues of that for quite a long time. I'll say that.
I would say in terms of representation, I don't think I've ever had anyone come up to me in that sort of way. But I do know that me doing La Cultura was important. Remember that story we did?
Yeah,
so,
that's good. That's good. I'm glad you brought that up.
That's something that we've talked extensively about for people that don't know. It was a sideline story, basically documentary style, 11-minute piece where me and Dexter basically produced it. I was the correspondent. We covered 3 boxers, all of whom were Puerto Rican. Zachary Ochoa, Matthew Gonzalez, Edgar Berlanga, who is now with Top Rank Boxing. So he's actually going to become a star pretty soon. All 3 of them going to fight the day before the Puerto Rican Day Parade, and where Felix Trinidad and Miguel Cotto long established before. That's actually a pretty big deal for us, for our people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So we sort of documented that. And another angle to that was it was the first Puerto Rican Day Parade after Hurricane Maria, to which, there wasn't a lot of help from Americans in terms of the aftermath of that. We don't have to get into that whole thing. But I feel like that
even
was...
though Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. So
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
There are people who don't look at it that way.
Right. We're allegedly Americans too, but like not really. We'll have the president just go and just shoot fucking, toilet paper at people and shit.
Yo, I forgot about that.
I think about that often.
Wild.
I think about that
and
often.
I understand why, but like
right. Because I listen.
I forgot how disrespectful that was.
I'm not gonna get right.
We talked about it in a way.
People just sweep that shit under the rug. But like, dog, do we not understand how offensive that shit is?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
We do in this room, but I'm saying just in general. Like, people just sweep that under the rug because he does a lot of fucking crazy shit. Now you got cursing a lot. You got me cursing a lot, I know that.
Whatever. We got an explicit tag.
He labels up.
But and then there's also when I was at MSG, I was probably the only Latino on camera there. I'm still there, just on a freelance basis.
You might be the only Latino's been on camera there for quite some time.
But I'm saying, like, during that spring-summer period where, we were doing all the shows at the same time, then, I was probably the only Latino person on camera. I'm trying to think of another one, but I don't really think there was one.
And that kind of transitions. I don't want to say one thing.
That's not a knock on them, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, that gives you an idea of the representation. Because we are often... You guys go through this a lot, but we go through this a lot too, where if we're Latino speaking English on camera, we're often the only one at Network X doing that. You know what I mean?
I absolutely see that. The one thing I was going to say with Bryan doing the La Cultura thing, and where it made me see a lot of how representation matters in executive producing that is one of our best videos we've done for Backpack and Sideline, and to see how it connected with people, even while we were doing it, to be at the King's Theater, to shoot that, to see how people were connecting around the fight, the pride, Puerto Rican, not my culture, obviously, but to be around it was so dope. To see people, somebody commented on the video the other day, people are still watching it and really like it. So it actually told me 2 things about the need to create content like that, where you have somebody like Bryan who's Puerto Rican, because that story doesn't work the same way if I tell it. Right? It doesn't work the same way. This is where I think people sometimes need to understand, as a fellow minority, I can say, hey, I'm a black guy who has no place telling this story. You need the Puerto Rican guy on this who's from the culture to tell the story. And Bryan was able to do that because he's able to talk with these fighters and connect with them based on their shared culture. Those things are important.